So as part of the final deal analyzer that I created, I'm now going to share with you the final steps, which is steps 7 to 9. And here, if you've missed some of the other elements of the deal analyzer, which I've covered already, please go back to some of the videos on my feeds, and you will be able to see the 9-step deal analyzer that I went through, and in quite a lot of detail actually, with loads of case study numbers that you can actually then use to evaluate for your own deals. But in this next video, I will talk about the step 7 to 9, which is talking about vendor finance, as well as the strategy of buy to hold and the strategy of buy to sell in this particular title splitting project. So far we've covered 7 out of the 9 steps in this deal analyzer. The first one I talked about was the seller's view. How did they come up with the price? It's important for us to understand that so we can look for negotiation points. Then I took through how I assess my own evaluation of that deal, which was a 23 flat block at 2.5 million. And the next section after that I shared with you was how do I finance this project, and I looked at buy to let as well as short-term lending like bridging finance. I also walked you through the current rental income before refurbishments and the profits that were being taken in at the time of purchase, because that was helpful for me to understand how much money I was going to be able to raise or receive while I do the actual refurbishment and the title splitting, which in this scenario took almost a year. Step 6, I then walked you through how I valued the actual block and how I've worked out my profit margins and my tolerance level for that particular deal. Now in this video I will take you through the final steps, which was I also evaluated the vendor finance route. But most importantly in this video, I'm going to talk to you through about my own strategy around buy and hold. But also because I coach quite a few people, I use this as coaching material to then walk them through if they had to buy and sell as a strategy. So let's take a look at the last 3 steps. So step 7 is the deal that we've been talking about, a £2.5 million project, 23 flats. And I wanted to understand, well, how would that deal look like if I used vendor finance to do that? So the way I to calculate it is you look at how much the refinance value will be after you've done all the works. In this scenario, or just under 3.5 million. The deposit that you'd have to leave in upon refinancing will be 862,000, which means that I would be able at exit release 2.587 million pounds. Then took out the purchase price negotiated at 2.1 million. That meant that after the deal was completed, I'd released a cash amount of 474,000 pounds. Total cost would have, to get me to that point, I would have spent 387,000, which is all the same that I've been showing you throughout this deal analyzer. Which means that at the end of the project, non-surprisingly, my profit margin will still be the same as in the previous sections that I showed you, £87,500. So there is an element that you could, I didn't choose to use it in this particular scenario, but if you did, and it's always worth doing these kind of analysis if you were financing it a different route. So now it comes to the point where you make actual decisions based on what was going to happen, and I certainly did that myself. So since I buy mainly never to sell and hold as a strategy, these were my working outs when I was looking at evaluating that particular scenario, particular deal. So first of all, I looked at the yearly rental income that was going to be generated after I'd finished the actual renovation based on the rental increase based on the value of the new flat. So that increased significantly, around £40,000 increase from what were currently being received at 193,000. That works out to be about £16,000 per month. Based on an interest only loan repayment of 4%, it will cost me, that project will cost me £103,000 per year rather, and that works out to be roughly £8,600 per month. So in terms of finance costs, it's costing me £8,500 per month. My rental income is around 16,000, so a healthy almost 50% profit before any management costs. Then I looked at the management cost based on experience, based on local area. I guesstimated around £2,000 per month. That's quite a lot, but you know, it's enough, I think, for 23 flats to allocate £2,000 per month every month to manage that block. That works out to be at around £10,000. So £8,000 for finance costs, £2,000 of management costs. So it's costing me £10,600 per month for that block, which means then that the actual profit per year would look something like this. It would be, you take out the finance cost, you take out your finance cost of your rental income as well as your management cost. That leaves a profit per year on that block of £65,000. Given that in a monthly scenario, that means that I would be netting £5,500 per month after all cost. The next bit that I look at is, well, what happens after 3 years? If I leave that as a 3-year period, what will be my net position? And after 3 years, my net profit would be 196,000. That's 65,000 times 3 years, which gives me 196,000 pounds. The profit I would have taken on day one, if you remember, the vendor finance amount here is still the same, because I would have still received the same amount of profit, although I financed in a different way, would be 87,500 pounds. So in total, over 3 years, my net position will be 284,000 pounds. So having bought it and done it now, I can tell you that it's well there or thereabouts, at least certainly over the past 2 years. So in terms of return on my capital invested, the good news is I didn't leave any money into that deal. So my capital investment was zero after I refinanced. My net profit per year on that block is £65,000 per year. My return on investment is infinite, because there's no money of mine that I've left. Everything is borrowed through the bank, leveraged against the property itself. So my return on investment is infinite, and my passive income is obviously infinite, in the sense that the rental amount covers all the cost, and the profit is there without leaving any money in. So to me, that was a great investment, but I had to go through all of these pains of my 9-step deal analyzer to make sure that before I commit £2.5 million worth of finance or resources to this project, it would actually work. And as it turned out, more or less the numbers work out. The last bit is all to do with a buy to sell strategy. I very rarely do it myself, but when I coach people, I take them through this section as well, through their deal analyzer, to get them to realize what would be their exit at the end. So in terms of the next section now, we will look at the buy to sell strategy.